In today's video we're going to be diving back into more of the first Berserker Khazan, and for this one I'm going to be going over everything I know about the bosses and how to defeat them by using their elemental weaknesses. Remember, there's a whole host of things that you can pick up and consumables that you can purchase as soon as you unlock the blacksmith in order to make these tough boss fight encounters much easier. The ones I'll be going over are going to be the main bosses in the game, because the sub bosses most times are kind of reskins, and the first one we're going to be kicking it off with is going to be Yetuga. Now this guy is all about ice, water, being in the cold environment, so it probably comes as a bit of a no-brainer to a lot of people that he's going to be weak against fire. Coat your blades in fire, make sure you throw a couple of fire essences at him, and he should, no pun intended, melt really fast. You can take this boss out very quickly this way, and fire does some really high damage against him no matter what kind of weapon or attack you're using. So put it to good use and watch him fall over very fast. Now I'm going to put Blade Phantom in the list just in case there's any more Phantoms that's added in kind of future DLC, and again this guy's actually really nice and easy to take down as soon as you realise his weakness is very similar to the last one, fire once again. He takes a massive amount of damage from fire attacks, and especially if you manage to catch him whenever you kind of break his guard, lob in some fire bombs and watch the damage mount up very rapidly. Now with this next one, Viper, this is one of the trickier bosses very early on in the game, but once you start finding his elemental weakness, it's really going to help you take him down fast. I thought it was going to be fire because it's in a kind of cold environment again, but instead, completely the opposite to this, it's going to be water that you're after. So use the water element to your advantage, coat your blades, throw it at him, whatever you decide is best, because he takes a really high amount of damage from these, making the fight much easier. Heading over to this time Volbaino, and this is one that I think you'll be able to pick up quite easily yourself because he has a lot of fire attacks, especially the ones where he coats the floor and kind of makes everything very tricky to fight in. So what we're going to do is use the counter effect to this and hit him with a whole bunch of water effects. Over to one of the worst bosses for anyone who's arachnophobic, and this time we've got Aratra. What I've worked out from this, most times when things are insect-like or kind of based on animals in general, they tend to be affected by fire very often. So again, we're going to find that elemental weakness of fire, coat your blades, launch some attacks whenever they've got some downtime, and of course you can actually pop their front legs, so that makes things a little bit easier as well. And then you have a bit of extra time to launch some elemental attacks on that way. Again, exactly the same going on with Bearius. This guy is actually really easy to destroy as soon as you know how to beat him, and fire helps you to do that even faster. Wait for his attacks, wait for him to kind of lunge at you or do his side roly-poly, and then you have a big window of opportunity in order to take him down, and of course using his elemental weakness of fire will make things even faster. This time we're going to be heading over to Rangkus, and this guy loves to use a whole bunch of fire elemental attacks against you, so we're going to use the complete opposite to take care of him, and we're going to be dousing everything with water. Once you start coating your weapon in water and start launching a few attacks at him, this can make this fight significantly easier and of course much faster. Now I must admit, on my first playthrough this guy was the one that gave me a bit of trouble first time. That's going to be Maluca, but now that I know exactly how to deal with him, he's an absolute cakewalk. Especially when you work out that he's got some really nice elemental weaknesses about him, so you can actually double tick him if you wanted to, and coating your weapon is going to make this fight very fast. The fact that he's weak to both fire and lightning makes it a lot easier, and without these it can be a bit of a tricky encounter. Over to what is undoubtedly one of the tankiest bosses in the game, and that's going to be Elamein. This battle can be a bit frustrating if you're under leveled or under geared, so hopefully these elemental weaknesses will help to work in your favour. I found throwing a few bombs at her that are earth worked out by giving you some nice tick damage, and coating your blade in poison can also help to make sure you dwindle her health down nice and fast. Using both of these can really help you on this encounter and make it a lot less frustrating, because otherwise she can be a bit of a nightmare, especially early on when you're not built up properly. Over to Shactuka, and this beast has a lot of windows of opportunity because he does loads of lunging attacks at you followed by kind of downtime, so you can quite easily decimate this enemy's health. Especially as soon as you start using anything to do with fire, you can dwindle it down massively, and of course give it some really cool effect when you do finally set him completely alight and his whole fur kind of glows with fiery ember where he's completely set on fire. Over to Trokka, and for this encounter you've got two great choices, as she's actually affected by two elemental weaknesses, one of which is pretty obvious because it's going to be fire. She's very water based, so you know that's going to be probably the main way to go, but she's also really weak to lightning. So again, double tick her or just choose one or the other in order to coat your weapon with, and you should be able to take her down much faster than you would have without it. And of course she's got a whole bunch of attacks that leave her open as well, especially when they do their burst attack. You're going to want to counter it, and that way you'll be able to hit her with a whole bunch of damage. Jumping over to Bellerian, and I actually thought that this boss was completely immune to everything. I tried almost everything and had absolutely no joy. But one thing I did find out is that if you actually coat your weapon with poison, it seems to be the only one that can take down her health much faster. You can get some great tick damage this way, and honestly it makes the fight much easier overall, and can even mean that she doesn't have her kind of second phase where she brings out the big Grim Reaper. Well worth knowing about and well worth using on this boss. Over to another absolute nightmare of a boss when I first encountered them, and that's going to be Skalpel. Skalpel can be one of the trickiest bosses in the game until you kind of learn all of their patterns and such, so what you want to do is make sure you're blocking or dodging through their attacks, and then whenever you do have some downtime and you're able to dish out some damage of your own, then you're going to want to focus on them and hit them with some lightning element or fire elemental attacks. These work out absolutely amazing and can really help the battle to go faster, especially in that second phase that can be a bit of a pain, especially if they manage to hit you with too much plague. Another thing, don't forget, get Plague Cleanser, that will also make your life a whole bunch easier on this fight. Over to Princess Ilyna, and this fight can be made significantly easier by using her elemental weakness, which is going to be that of lightning. I found by using this you can dwindle down their health massively, and again, depending on what kind of build you're going, you can also make it so they don't have all of their phases and such, which can really help you out, especially if you don't like taking any chaos damage. However, as with all bosses that do give out things such as chaos damage, you may want to bring some chaos cleanse potions just in case the fight goes on a little bit longer than you hoped. Over to the biggest boss in the game, and this time we've got Hismar. Hismar is an absolute nightmare. He used to be able to take a lot of damage from poison attacks, and now he's actually got no elemental weaknesses, so you're going to have to learn his patterns in order to take him down. However, there's quite a few things that can help you with this, and some things I'd say will help you massively would be to focus on his head. Don't run away from any of his attacks, instead try to brink guard them whenever you can, because this will dwindle down his stamina, and of course he'll have quite a few big hits focused at you that instead of you trying to avoid, you should really try and block at the perfect time. Brink guarding works amazing on this boss, but so does focusing on his head. If you focus on his head whenever you can, especially when there's some downtime with him and he's done some big attacks, then you can actually break his horns, and that way he'll be knocked to the floor and you'll be able to do some additional damage. Remember, he's another boss that does a lot of chaos damage, so if you can, make sure you bring some chaos cleanser, and of course if all else fails, dual wield tends to make this a whole bunch easier, because you can do your whirlwind, which will be able to hit him, whereas other weapons tend to struggle a bit. Another fight that I struggled with when I first encountered them was going to be Reese, but now I found that actually one of the easier fights, especially when you know their weaknesses. The cool thing about this fight, the elemental weakness of Earth, actually works out really well against them, and when you start multi-hitting them a lot, especially if you've coated it on your blades, you can actually manage to not only knock off a lot of their health, but also turn them completely to stone. This looks really cool and can give you a bit of downtime if you want to heal up or if you want to do a bit more extra damage, but as well as that, if you wanted to, don't forget you can also use lightning attacks, as they're also going to work out really well against her. Both of these elements dwindle her health down and make the fight much faster again. Lastly, over to the big guy himself, the final boss, Ozma. Again, unfortunately they don't have any real weaknesses. But I did find personally that lightning tend to help a little bit. I think it might have taken down their stamina bar a bit faster, because whenever I was coating my blades with it, I tended to finish the fight much faster. Let me know in the comments if I'm wrong about this, but I think it works out a little bit, but not massively. And other than that, you do kind of have to work out his patterns and take him down by learning his mechanics and such. But after a while of learning him, he's not actually quite as tricky as you might imagine, but you are definitely going to want a few things on hand, and the main thing is going to be your chaos cleanser once again. Some of his phases really can knock down your health with that chaos, and without these you'll find him tricky, so using that in order to get your bar back, then follow up with healing, works out absolutely perfect. Same as a lot of the other bosses, pick and choose your opportunities when you're able to actually tackle this enemy, and whenever he's finished off his kind of combos, that's when you've usually got a little bit of a chance to attack him and take down his health nicely. One thing you can do as well though, whenever he's in the air, if you've got some additional spirit, then you can actually use your javelin in order to take down a bit of his health, and hopefully after a little while you get to grips with him and manage to finish him off entirely. But yeah, hopefully that's helped a few of you guys and girls out. There's going to be a load more content away from me, including some of the best setups and build guides for all weapons. As always, for all things gaming, take care. I'll see you on the next day.